Cursing, or the act of wishing harm or misfortune upon someone through the use of words or magic, has been a part of human culture for thousands of years. Whether it is used as a form of revenge, a way to protect oneself, or as part of a religious or spiritual practice, the act of cursing has long been a topic of controversy and debate. But is it illegal to curse someone? The answer to this question is actually not as straightforward as one might think. In the United States, cursing someone is not generally considered a criminal offense. In fact, the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects the right of freedom of speech, which includes the right to express oneself through words, even if those words are offensive or harmful.
So help me, the only thing keeping me from wishing a pox on your house is that your house is next to my house and the pox could spread.
However, there are some circumstances where cursing someone could result in legal consequences. For example, if the curse is used as a threat of physical harm or violence, it could be considered a form of harassment or assault. Similarly, if the curse is used as part of a larger criminal act, such as extortion or blackmail, it could result in charges of criminal conspiracy. And in some cases, cursing someone could also be considered a form of defamation. Defamation is the act of making false statements about someone that harm their reputation. While cursing is not typically associated with false statements, it is possible that a curse could somehow be considered defamatory if it causes harm to the victim's reputation.
Members of a satanic cult performing a ritual over the grave of Westboro founder Fred Phelps' mother, two guys kissing over the headstone, hoping to turn Phelps' dead mother gay. They say the so-called pink mass ritual is in retaliation for Westboro's attempt to protest at the funerals of the Boston bombing victims.
But of course, ultimately, this would not really be because of the curse itself, but rather because of making it public by making statements about the victim that are defamatory or doing so while recording the curse. So it wouldn't actually be the curse per se, but the way that they did it. I suppose in a sense, you might be able to argue that if, say, I posted a public cursing video of some celebrity on my YouTube channel and many people thought it was real, this could cause material or emotional harm to said celebrity. But I think that's a pretty far stretch, and I highly doubt that that would ever really happen. I think that most of the possible cases that I'm really getting at here would be something more like somebody's already involved in a situation of like stalking or problematic behavior, and then they start doing things like leaving cut up voodoo dolls or pierced voodoo dolls on their porch with their hair on it or something like that. That kind of thing is going to cause a lot of problems. If, say, I have a restraining order against some brujeria somewhere, and she decides that she's going to curse me on video and talk about how terrible of a person I am, then that could be considered defamation. But again, you see how it's not so much about the curse as about the way that you do it and the information and the things that are portrayed while you're doing it. Sitting alone and doing a curse in your bedroom in the United States is probably not considered defamatory. And another example, if I made a video cursing Joel Osteen and talked about a bunch of grievances or lied about him, this might be defamation. But again, it's going to be more about the video and the things that I say rather than the curse itself. And in addition to legal consequences, cursing someone could also result in social or cultural consequences. For example, in some religious or cultural traditions, cursing someone is considered a sin or a taboo and could result in ostracism or other forms of social punishment. And a church or a family may want to disown or retrain you not to practice witchcraft or in some other way punish you for cursing someone. And despite the lack of legal consequences for cursing someone in the United States, there are actually some countries where just doing witchcraft is considered a criminal offense, whether or not you intend to harm anyone. In the United Arab Emirates, for example, being caught doing witchcraft is punished with jail time and a fine of 50,000 dirhams, which is about $14,000. And in parts of other countries, such as India and Nepal, cursing is considered a form of black magic or witchcraft. And interestingly enough, in the United States in the 1800s, there actually were places where witch doctors and these other types of people could be held accountable for their deeds, though generally it was a case where they offered to give somebody a medical treatment that didn't actually pan out and the person died or something like that. Now, while the legality of cursing someone varies from country to country, cursing someone can cause real harm and should not be taken lightly, even though a bunch of skeptics would say that cursing is hokum or mumbo-jumbo that doesn't do anything. And in some cases, cursing may even have unintended consequences. For example, in a famous case of cursing, Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, claimed that James Mansfield asked him to curse Steve Brody, a persistent suitor of hers. Of course, there are rumors that say that Anton just didn't like the man or was jealous of him and his relationship with Jane Mansfield. Who's truly to say on something like that, though, unless you were really there? But regardless, Steve Brody and Jane Mansfield were involved in a gruesome car wreck shortly after Anton supposedly cursed Brody. So many say that she was collateral damage of a curse on Steve. But again, who can really say? And while it is unclear whether the curse was actually responsible for their deaths, the incident highlights the potential dangers of cursing someone. Despite the potential consequences of cursing someone, the act of cursing is still practiced by many people around the world, whether it is used as a form of revenge, a way to protect oneself, as part of a religious or spiritual practice, or even just as a psychodrama to work through feelings like a weird therapy session of sorts. The act of cursing remains a controversial and divisive topic. Ultimately, whether or not to curse someone is a personal choice that should be made with caution and consideration for the potential consequences. While cursing may provide temporary relief or satisfaction, it is important to consider the long-term effects of one's actions on both oneself and the recipient of the curse. For instance, say your curse works. Will you ever feel grief or guilt? And of course, for all the skeptics, what if somebody curses somebody and it just so happens that by accident that person gets in a car crash and dies that day, and then the person begins to feel guilt despite the fact that their curse didn't actually work? So there's a psychological toll that could happen regardless of the reality of magic. And all this is something that should be considered before taking such supposedly drastic action. And in many cases, it may actually be more productive to address the source of one's anger or frustration through communication or other nonviolent means. This can help prevent any further harm or escalation of the situation, and may even lead to a resolution or reconciliation. And for those who feel compelled to curse someone, it is important to remember that words have power and consequences. It is possible that the curse could backfire or cause unintended harm, and it is important to consider whether the potential benefits outweigh these risks. In addition, it is also important to remember that cursing is not the only way to address one's grievances or seek justice, even magically. There are many legal, social, and cultural avenues available for those who feel wronged or victimized, and it may be a lot more productive to pursue these channels instead of resorting to cursing, or moreover, finding the problems that you have in your life as an ability to grow and push yourself forward as a human being might actually be a more healthy position than wallowing in all of these problems. Or fuck them. Curse it is. And if you made it this far in the video, I imagine that you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed this video, I bet you'll like my content in general. Currently, I'm on a rush to get 1,000 subscribers by August 2023, so please subscribe if you're so inclined. Also, likes let YouTube know that people like you like my content, so it should be shared with more of you. And if you're looking for something to do now, I bet you'll love this video. And make sure to come back soon, because there's always something lurking beneath the floorboards. Somewhere.